Hi, everyone. Welcome to Conversations with Catherine. I am very excited to be joined today by Shannon Wallace. She is a jazz vocalist here in Arizona. You've probably heard her or seen her, and she has performed all over the country and also overseas. So I'm very excited to catch up with you, Shannon, because you have so much going on.
It's a busy time, for sure.
It is indeed. So let's talk about your big project right now. Because people may not realize you are also a certified dementia practitioner specializing in interactive music workshops for those living with all levels of dementia and cognitive impairment. You've been doing this for about 5 years now. Tell me a little bit about the work that you do and what drew you to this specialization.
Oh, probably my grandma. She just passed away a couple of years ago at 98, and grandma and I were super tight. And I've always had an affinity for my elders. They resonate with me. I've been accused of being an old soul myself. So I wanted to bring more meaning to my music. I used to front a 20-piece big band orchestra for almost 12 years and working in jazz for 25 plus years, gigging, and it's wonderful. I love it. But I also wanted to bring a little bit more meaning and outreach, mindfulness to my music. And so I decided to work with the elderly, and it ended up that I migrated somehow into memory care, the dementia contingent, or those who are cognitively impaired for other reasons other than dementia. So brain work, and I'm not exactly sure where that came from, but maybe it's a calling. So a lot of in-person work I did for 5 years pre-COVID, and going to various communities around, particularly the metropolitan Phoenix area. AARP was and is a great sponsor of my program, my in-person program, and I was going down to Tucson as well, so serving the AARP membership down there as well as here. So it involves not only music, but movement. So there's, a body in motion stays in motion, and then it involves memory games, hand-eye coordination games, recall and response, that kind of thing. And then COVID hit, and I was completely unemployed. I also own my own marketing firm, and I serve mostly the music and entertainment industry all over the world, as well as healthcare, particularly elder care. So both of my niches got completely wiped clean in terms of what I was able to do to serve them. So right now we're all vulnerable, right? But our elders are particularly vulnerable, and they are going to be quarantined longer than you and I will ever be, just because they're a vulnerable community. So that said, they're not able to see their adult sons and daughters, grandchildren, that kind of thing. So I wanted to maybe bring what I knew to bring to them, but from a virtual platform. It's something I've always wanted to do in the 5 years I've been doing this, to try to diversify my services, because I can only be at one place at one time. But COVID, in as much as it's a dark and place, an uncertain place that we're all in relative to the virus, there's a lot of beauty that's coming from it as well. Not only my particular program, but a lot of people are doing some incredibly innovative things that are very mindful and meaningful for the greater good. And that's very exciting. And so I want to be a part of that.
Well, and it's given a lot of people time to pause and really think about, okay, how can I pivot and really make changes during this time that might actually be changes I probably should have made or thought about making. You talked about that this is a virtual program. It's music, movement, and memory. It's the first ever virtual of its kind, specific, as you mentioned, to those living with dementia and cognitive impairment. Very, very exciting, because it's coming to fruition at a time when you have those communities who are very vulnerable, as you mentioned, and really need something like this. These are live and pre-recorded videos, as you mentioned, interactive. Describe the experience for the person who is using it, benefiting from it. How do you walk us through how that works?
So if I'm live, they're just slightly different experiences, the on-demand pre-recorded videos versus me being live. And the difference is more the interactivity. Like you and I are interacting right now on Zoom. I use the Zoom platform for the classes and the workshops that I do as well. So the difference there is that I might see Jane in a red sweater. And so I'll say, "Oh, Jane, you look fabulous in your red sweater." And then she's, perking up because she sees and hears me acknowledging her in some way. So, you know, I kind of harken back for those of us who might remember the days of Romper Room. I mean, those were in syndication by the time I came around as a child on PBS, like Sesame Street and all. But Romper Room was one of these things where I watched it as a kid, and she would look through this handheld mirror that wasn't a mirror at all. And she'd say, I see Jane, and I see Bobby, and I see Susie. And I was 4 or 5 years of age saying, say my name, thinking that she could see me. And now we can see each other, you know, fast forward 25, 30 years, maybe even longer than that. And I can see them. So people like to be acknowledged, and that encourages their participation. So we start out with a song that that is not something they know, because I want to assess their level of cognition, like how quickly can they catch on to this song, and if they can, then I kind of know where I am, and if they can't, then I know where I am, and then I serve accordingly. It's all about knowing your audience, and as a musician, I need to understand my audience so that I can read the room, if you will. So that helps. So and then they can ask questions, and we can, and I incite a call and response. So what I mean by that is I might ask them about, there's a song called Que Sera Sera, and Doris Day had done it way back, and what will be, the future's not ours to see, Que Sera Sera. So if you had a crystal ball, would you want to see your future? The future's not ours to see. Do you agree? So then we talk about whether or not you'd like to see your future or not, what that might look like. So it's maybe we want to make it look like it was in 1954 again. Who's to say? So what it does is just allows people to kind of explore memory and get their synapses firing in ways that generally don't happen on a daily basis. The on-demand videos are for when I can't go live, right? Because I can't be live 24/7.
Right.
And someone might have some anxiety in the afternoon. And what do you do when you have anxiety? And maybe it's a caregiver caring for a loved one, and she or he doesn't know how to help their loved one. Well, let's open the video and let's watch Shannon do a video for 30 minutes, and maybe back to back. You can binge watch me if you want to. You know, that's my goal. You can binge watch. And then I also offer 5-minute videos too on things like circadian rhythm, which is how we wake up in the morning and we go through our day, and we get in the afternoon, and then we get tired at night, we get sleepy. But a lot of people with dementia end up suffering from sundowner syndrome, which means there's a lot of anxiety after the sun goes down. And how do you calm someone who's nervous or is anxious, or you know, maybe is combative even for that matter? So I offer some 5-minute videos for soothing or waking up and getting the day started. So and that's what
really
makes this
fascinating.
different. It is fascinating, and I'm learning as I'm going. I mean, I'm a certified dementia practitioner, yes, but what does that mean, really? I'm not exactly sure exactly what that means. What that means is I have some knowledge. I know something about something, but what I don't know is a lot. So I'm learning as I'm going, and they're teaching me day by day, and it's beautiful.
And I love that you are also involving their care partners as well in this. And it's all levels, and it's all ages, correct?
It's all ages. So again, you need to know your audience. So if I'm catering to an audience that's 75 and above, I know what kind of music I need to sing, generally speaking. If I'm working with younger people, I need to know that age range, so then I can start singing some other things like Beyonce or, you know, Britney Spears, or what, you know, whatever I need to do, I can do it. But you just need to know your audience is all.
And so you launched this earlier this month, but you're just now going on sort of an international tour, if you will, and really getting the word out about the program. What kind of response have you received so far? What kind of feedback?
You know, really, generally it's positive feedback I'm getting. And right now I'm targeting all the English speaking countries. And I thought maybe I'd just start with that. I speak Spanish fluently. So, you know, at some point in time, I'll target the Spanish speaking nations as well. But at this point, I'm still learning what's working and what isn't. So I'll stick with what I know. But they're really, it's more of an inquisitiveness that I'm experiencing. And it all depends on who I'm talking to. I might be talking to someone in the medical profession, you know, neurologist, or I might be talking to an advocacy organization on public policy for elder care and elder rights and elder abuse, or I might be talking to an adult daughter for her mother, you know. And so the questions run the gambit. Everybody's curious. They're a little nervous about the technology. And I think that's, you know, I mean, even though we're using Zoom to death at this point, many still are not. And so it's a little intimidating, that virtual part of it, that technological part. I think once we get past the technology, then the world is our oyster in their mind's eye.
And this is subscription based. So what should people know about getting the service, signing up? How should people go about doing that?
So they can go to my website at musicalmemorycare.com, musicalmemorycare.com. And then I offer two levels of, or two plans at this point, an individual plan. And that's anybody who's aging in place, or like I said, a husband who's taking care of his wife, or adult daughter taking care of her mother, or even independent living. So they might be living in an independent living community, but you know, they can come and go as they please, if you will. They can subscribe. It's much like a Amazon Prime or a Netflix format. So you sign up, and then it's $12.97 a month, and you opt out anytime you want. So you have full access to all of my material, and anytime I go live, you can join in anytime that I am live, and then you opt out anytime that you would prefer to do that. If you're a corporation, an organization, profit or for-profit or not-for-profit, if you're a property management company that manages these types of care properties, then I have a quick questionnaire. It's about a minute or less, and I just want to get a sense of who you are, how many properties you might have in your portfolio, how many people are we serving, and then it's a customized approach in terms of the contract or the agreement or the proposal, and then we move forward, or we negotiate and we move on.
Well, I love the detail that you've put into this, the thought, the care. I mean, your passion certainly comes through, and I'm just so excited for you in launching this and seeing how it develops over the next couple of months, especially. But yeah, I want to touch on something you mentioned when you talk about reaching out to, you know, make this international. You spent 5 weeks last fall in China, pre-COVID, and you had talked a little bit about how that, you talked to me off camera about how that inspired what you are doing right now. Talk to me a little bit about what you did when you were there and how that sort of fed into what you're doing now.
So I was reached out to by a board member of the World Academy for the Future of Women, an organization I had never heard of, but a colleague of mine. And she said that the organization itself had received a grant from the federal government, the State Department. Give Voices to Women Through the Arts is the name of the grant. And it was a 3-year grant, and they had one more grant left to offer. And so they extended the offer to me, and what that meant was that I was to go over to China, to a place called Zhengzhou in the Hunan province, which is the largest, most dense province of the country. Wuhan is not in that province, but it's just 350 miles due south of where I lived. And I lived on the campus of CIOS University, and I taught human equality, women's empowerment to young university women and men. I had 191 students, and I taught them every weekday, actually in the evenings after they went to school and did their other classes all day long. But I was also sent there as a vocalist to tour around the province to various ages, and one of the contingents I wanted to serve, I was very specific. If I'm gonna go over there, I really want to work with the elderly as well, because I wanted to see, and this was pre-COVID, so this was before I had this virtual program, but I knew that I wanted to go virtual at some point in time when I had time. And I thought, how does my program translate? So, and how does it translate across the ages, but across the culture? So I made sure before I left, I learned a couple of Chinese songs, you know, just the simple children's type songs that you and I would know in English, like Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, you know, everybody knows that song. So I learned a couple of songs that they would know, all ages. And then I worked with all ages on how to do hand-eye coordination games, memory games. With the elderly, we talked a little bit about what it's like to be old. And of course, I had a translator the entire time because I don't speak Chinese yet, but that inspired me to learn the language too. But what I learned is that we are not different in kind, only in degree, and very small degree. So as we are all not representative of any given American administration, our government. Not all of us are representative of any given time. They are likewise the same. So, and as much as what we might have an understanding of their government, we may or may not have that understanding, but the people are not reflective of the government. And I never more experienced a type of joy that I never anticipated. All I can say to you is I never understood what joy meant until I was in China and experienced something that I had never experienced. It was more, the music was the common thread. Mm-hmm. Humanity, of course, was the common thread that ran through all of us. But it brought us together, this music. And you don't have to be a singer to find a common denominator.
It's universal. It's universal.
Exactly. You don't even have to sing. You don't have to play an instrument. You don't have to do anything. Just enjoy it, whatever. But it's engaging. So I was able to see what worked and what didn't work based on a culture I was learning. And there's a little bit of austerity that comes and traditionalism that comes with the Chinese elders, for sure. But we can get around anything, and music, but love was the ultimate common denominator that brought us all together. And so I created, I enjoyed rather these friendships that I was able to establish, that they were able to establish with me. And that made things a little more mindful and meaningful to me coming back to the United States. Of course, you know, coming back to a world that pre-COVID again, that I was comfortable and knew and was very familiar with, that I was able, my takeaways were that what I didn't know, again, was a lot. And we know what we know. We don't know what we don't know. What can you do with what you don't know? Nothing.
Right.
You don't know what you don't know. So what? But when you know what you don't know, now that's an interesting place to be.
Yes. Yes.
What do you do?
Tremendous growth, right? Tremendous growth if you really focus on it.
Exactly. So China.
Well, that's amazing. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry. It inspired you.
Oh. Yeah, it inspired me. It inspired me to do more with my music, but also to, I believe that the true meaning of life, for me at least, is to be of service. And I didn't understand that in my 20s. I got a sense of it maybe in my 30s, and now I'm in my 40s, and I'm grateful for maybe understanding the meaning of life before I'm 50, because then I can just take it into my 50s, right? I mean, it doesn't matter when we learn this. It's just that I hope that we learn this.
We are all works in progress at every single stage. That is for sure. And I think, just as I was listening to you describe what you saw there and what you felt, it's similar to some of the experiences that I'm feeling during this pandemic. You know, really going back to the basics and learning to reappreciate and give gratitude for all the simple little things that in the craziness of life, we sometimes don't give enough attention to and appreciate.
It's kind of like stopping and smelling the roses, don't you think?
Yes.
I mean, maybe that's cliche, but this COVID time, there's so much beauty and so much opportunity. If we just stop to smell and just stop to look, the world is our oyster in this time. And I'm really appreciating the slow aspect of our world.
A slower pace to, like you said, just stop and smell the roses. And hopefully at whatever point things resume to some other sense of normalcy, that we can maintain some of that. Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah. You know, I think those of us who want to will.
Yep.
And those of us who are not aware of how might seek.
Well said, Shannon, well said. So I want to let people know how they can find out about the Music Movement and Memory program. It's at musicmemorycare.com.
Musical Memory Care.
Musical Memory. Oh, there it is. musicalmemorycare.com. And I'll make sure to put that in the notes on my YouTube channel. And then they can find you and all the wonderful things you're doing at shannonwallacesings.com.
Yes, I'm highly accessible. So reach out. I'd love to have conversations. Let's have some social stimulation.
I love it. Well, thank you for having this conversation with me. And I wish you all the best as you continue to promote this workshop. And I just think it's fabulous. I am all about music and movement, anytime, anywhere.
Yay, good. Maybe I can
It
get you
keeps
to
us
join.
young. It keeps us young.
It does keep us young. I mean, hello, I'm still in my 20s.
And so am I.
Exactly. Listen, I'll buy it all day long. That's great. Thank you for this opportunity, Catherine. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, Shannon. It's always a pleasure to catch up with you. And
You
I'm so appreciative of all that you are doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Thanks so much for watching Conversations with Catherine. Please remember to hit the subscribe button, like, and comment while you're here. I'll see you next time.